I'll call your attention to that agenda at this time. Items 1, 2, and 3 are standard items. Is there anyone that would like to do the invocation? Okay. And anyone like to do the pledge? Reverend King? Okay. Item 4 will be citizens with input. Item 5 are recognitions and presentations. Item 5A is recognition of the fire recruits of the year. Chief?
Yes, sir. Mayor and Council, tonight, myself and Chief Crumpton are going to introduce you to the fire recruit, firefighter, and fire officer of the year.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Item 5B will be a water sewer infrastructure update from Burke Mirth. Item 5C will be special events applications. 5C1 is a 2026 second Saturday showcase and artisan pop-up. Excuse me. Second Saturday of each month beginning March the 14th, 2026. They'll run from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Ms. Hartley?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, this is a request to do a second Saturday showcase in both the spring and the fall of 2026. We did one of these in October through December of 2025, and it was very well attended. We had wonderful feedback. We probably had about 8 new pop-up vendors that participated in those 3 months within that showcase series, and we want to continue that again in 2026 with a spring and a fall pop-up, like I said, to bring additional foot traffic to downtown and to support the growth of the farmers market.
Questions, council? Yes, sir.
I think this is a great idea, Ms. Hartley. I noticed the second one proposed in the spring occurs during the Dogwood Festival. That wouldn't be a problem at all?
We would have to be careful on the location that we're looking at, and work with our vendors and, of course, the Dogwood Festival to make sure that we're not conflicting too much. If needed, I might suggest moving the dates if a compromise can't be for location. Yes, sir.
Thanks.
I just want to say I really appreciate everything you do at the farmers market.
Of course.
We go every Saturday. I absolutely love it. I love the pop-up vendors when you do that. It brings that extra flair to the market.
Exactly.
And for those of y'all that don't know and don't go to the farmers market every Saturday, it is such a unique part of our community and such a really vibrant part of our downtown. And Alicia has a lot to do with that because of the work she's put behind it. So
appreciate it.
I just wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you.
Of course. Anytime.
Thank you.
Of course.
Item 5C2 is Mint Talent Agency contract for Rumors Atlanta, performers for the Perry Bites and Beats Festival on Saturday, September the 12th, 2026. Ms. Cameron?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to request the approval of the Mint Talent Agency contract for Rumors ATL, a Fleetwood Mac tribute band, as the headline performer for the Perry Bites and Beats Music Festival on September 12th, 2026. When I proposed this event, I intentionally designed it to encourage multi-hour attendance, activate downtown businesses, and bring in visitors from outside of our local area. This contract, it does include a $15,000 artist guarantee paid in 2 separate installments of $7,500, along with the standard touring accommodations like a $1,200 hotel buyout, $25 per person meal buyout, and ground transportation, totaling approximately $16,350. If you notice in the contract and in the rider that was in your packet, there are blue redlined items. Those items were mutually agreed upon between the city attorney and the agency. The agency's policy is to leave them in place for transparency and record keeping. This booking was selected strategically because Rumors ATL has a proven ability to drive regional visitation and tourism. This contract represents an intentional investment in downtown and the long-term growth of Perry's event portfolio. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding the contract.
I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
So I have some concerns about the rain clause because I know how many of our events, it seems to always rain when we're doing something really cool downtown. So I'm really worried about that. Would it be possible for us to find an indoor location to move it to in the event of it having to be canceled as an outside event? I don't know where that would be, but,
yeah.
you know.
Unfortunately, the only place that would be feasible to fit the band as far as like stage requirements would be the fairgrounds. However, I have met with RCS Productions, and we are renting a stage that will protect the band itself and their instruments from the rain, so we can carry on with this event, rain or shine. The only way we would really consider canceling is if it was thunderstorming, lightning, and there was a public safety issue at that point.
Okay, and then my second question related to this is I see that, well, first of all, and I'm sorry, I'm new.
No, it's okay.
Forgive me for asking stupid questions, but at least I'm doing it during pre-council, right, guys? So, I'm seeing that it's split across 2 budget years. So, Mitchell, I guess that's normal practice. Okay, no problem. And then coming from the hotel motel tax, and that's coming through the general budget's offset, or no? Is that right? The TC something, I can't remember.
Jeez.
Yeah, the funding would come from, ultimately the expense would be in the general fund, but the funding would come from the general purpose funding and the hotel motel tax. So it would be coming from hotel motel through a transfer in to the general fund.
Okay, and I guess I just need, has anybody verified that you can pay direct fees for concerts? Something I was reading as I was researching the hotel motel tax, the city of Dunwoody has got a great website that kind of outlines what the hotel motel tax is, how it's paid for, et cetera. And they actually said you cannot have direct payment for concert fees, festivals, fireworks, et cetera, with hotel motel tax dollars.
That would be true for the TCT.
But not the one through the general fund?
General purpose fund, you can spend it on anything legal that the city can spend money on.
Okay, and how many of the people are we marketing this to that live outside of a 50-mile radius?
So on top of advertising to the Air Force bases in not just Georgia, but Florida, Charleston Air Force Base, Pope Air Force Base, we're also going to be, the band itself will be advertising, and this band has toured not only nationally but internationally, so their reach far extends like our direct audience with our
Right.
reach on social media
Yeah,
and
they're
things like
amazing.
that.
I love
Yeah.
it. I've paid to go see them at Cox Capitol. They
They've
rock.
sold out
They're
several
amazing.
times in Macon,
Right.
and they've brought in a lot of visitors, a lot of tourism to Macon when they've played those concerts.
Okay, and is there a way that we can advertise for our local hotels as we push out information about this?
I believe Visit Perry would be able to do that, yeah.
Please, Anya. Like all of our hotels, not just our favorite new ones, but all of them would be preferred since they all pay into the hotel motel tax fund. And that was all my questions.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6 are appointments. 6A are mayor and council joint appointments. You'll see that we have a large number, because this is election year, many of the people who serve on many of our boards and authorities serve at the same cycle that the elected officials are. So we'll have a number of them to go through this evening. We'll go through each one of them and affirm that either affirm or question the ones that are presented. Item 6A1 is the Perry-Houston County Airport Authority, and that would be my responsibility. I would recommend that we reappoint Mr. Billy Gerald and reappoint Marshall Parker, both to the Airport Authority. They've served a number of years and have done a fine job in representing the city of Perry. That board's made up of representatives from Houston County as well as from the city of Perry. So, questions, council members? Item 6A2 is Main Street Advisory Board. Ms. Hartley?
Thank you, Mayor. For the Main Street Advisory Board, the staff recommendation is to reappoint 2 current serving board members, Trish Cossart and Rob Ray. Ms. Cossart is a downtown business owner, and Rob Ray is one of the associate pastors at the Methodist Church. Both of these individuals have fulfilled Standard 2 of the National Main Street Accreditation, which includes inclusive leadership and organizational capacity, emphasizing the importance of people within our organization.
Questions, council? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6A3 is the Technology and Entrepreneurship Advisory Board. Is anybody doing that for Ms. Wharton? No, there's Ms. Wharton. Ms. Wharton.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, for the Technology Board, we have two current serving members that are up for reappointment. The first one is Dr. Lenine Rodriguez. He's the Director of Operations at the UGA Grand Farm. And also Antoinette Kennedy. She has specific expertise in entrepreneurship support. So both of these are very strong board members for us, and we do recommend reappointment of these two.
Okay. Questions? Thank you. 6A4 is Downtown Development Authority. Mrs. Wharton?
Yes, so first item is the appointment of Lindsay Bryant. This recommendation is to fill a vacancy that occurred when a reappointment did not have the desire to continue serving. So with this, we're recommending Lindsay Bryant. She's the development manager with the Loudermilk Companies here in the city of Perry, has extensive experience with downtown development, and feel like she would be a really good fit for the DDA board. And
Questions?
then, go ahead.
Sorry.
I was just going to say the next three are reappointments. Ryan Mosley, Marlon Rhodes, and Tom Tuggle. So all three of those have expressed interest in continuing to serve, so we would recommend reappointing those three.
Questions, comments, council? Item 6A5 is the Industrial Building Authority. Ms. Wharton?
Yes, so our Industrial Building Authority's enabling legislation outlines that one of those members is appointed as the president of the Perry Area Chamber of Commerce, and it serves a one-year term. So this is the reappointment of Miss Maggie Schuyler, serving in that role as she's the president of the Perry Chamber.
Okay. Thank you. 6A6 is the Historic Preservation Commission. Mr. Duffy?
Thank you, Mayor, and Council. This item is also a reappointment of two of our Preservation Commission members, Mr. Andrew Griffin as well as Clayton Hubbard. Both have been on the Historic Preservation Commission since its inception in 2022, and they are both very passionate about preservation of historic Perry, as well as bringing different areas of expertise onto the commission, and are nominated for reappointment.
Okay. Thank you. Questions, council? Item 6B are Mayor, Council, Post 1, District 1, 2, and 3 appointments. Item 6B1 is the Perry Public Facilities Authority. Ms. Newt?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, all of these are reappointments. Mr. Jeff Leonard has served since 2016, Mr. Benjamin Holbert since 2021. Madison Holland was appointed July 1st of 2025 after a resignation of Mike Froelich, and Ms. Belinda Baker has been serving since January of 2022.
Questions, council? Item 6B2 is the Perry Planning Commission. Mr. Duffy?
Thank you, Mayor, and Council. These three folks have also been serving on our Planning Commission for a range of different periods of time. Mr. Meserly, who's our chairman, brings expertise of an architectural background. Mr. Hayes is an executive in finance industry, and Mr. Wharton brings legal expertise to the Planning Commission, and both are willing and excited for future service.
Okay. Questions, council? Thank you. Item 6B3 is the Board of Adjustments and Appeal. Mr. Duffy?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. So the Board of Adjustment and Appeals really does not meet on a regular basis. The board exists in the rare event that an opinion or ruling of our chief building official is to be challenged. Thus, members of the board must bring in accordance with our codified ordinances, different forms of expertise to this board relating to the building industry. Mr. Wingate is a local contractor. Mr. Jackson is a local business person. Mr. Clay Smith is also a contractor, and Mr. Meserly is an architect.
Questions, council? Item 6B4 is the Perry Area Convention and Visitors Bureau Authority. Ms. Turpin?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I am here tonight to request your consideration for the reappointment of Mr. Chris Patel, who is one of our local hotel owners, Andrew Presswood, William McWilliams, both of whom are residents of Perry, and Megan Brent, who is the owner of the Perfect Pair in historic downtown Perry. I'm also here to request the appointment of Miss Talisa Azaro, who owns the Chowbella Market in downtown Perry, and Heather Deloach, who owns Paint with Lush Art.
Questions, council? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7 will be review of the minutes. We'll go through that. Item 8 is unfinished business. 8A is ordinance as a second reading and adoption. 8A1 is a second reading of a text amendment to the land management ordinance to add language to section 6-10.1, general requirements for streets and other rights-of-way. Mr. Duffy?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I know we did discuss the purpose of this proposed text amendment at our last work session 2 weeks ago. However, I just wanted to remind Council and invite any questions. This is really a public safety pursuit to ensure that our fire access and public safety vehicles are capable to access residents within subdivisions in the event that the Georgia Department of Transportation does not wish to permit a secondary entrance.
Okay. Questions, council? Thank you, Mr. Duffy. Item 9 will be unfinished business, and we'll go through that for each of you. Item 10 will be new business, and that would be anything that's referred from this meeting to our regular meeting. 10B are ordinances for the first reading and introduction. 10B1 is the first reading of an ordinance to amend the FY 2026 operating budget. Mr. Worthington?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, in y'all's board pack are 2 items. Number 1 is the actual ordinance itself, and number 2 is a memo from the city manager going over some of the highlights of the amendments to the budget. The mid-year budget adjustment process is a standard process that we've followed for many years. It allows staff and you all as our elected officials to recognize revenues as they've actually come in through mid-year, and also recognize expenses that have been approved or changed throughout the year. I don't plan on going over each of the changes that are listed in this memo, but I would like to highlight some of the larger ones by fund. Starting with the general fund, the largest change in our revenues is the actualization of our property tax collection. As you all know, we did not roll back the millage rate this year, so property tax collection is projected to be $1.441 million more than the original budget called for. Down in expenses, 2 of the major things that are being recognized as part of this budget amendment is number 1, the establishment of a new assistant city attorney position. Total expenditures for that are expected to be $150,000. That would include all operating costs, not just salaries. Second thing is a shift of costs from the hotel motel tax fund. Previously and in previous years and in the original FY26 budget, the general purpose dollars in the hotel motel tax fund were accounted for and expended in the hotel motel tax fund. As part of a best practice, we're proposing that we change the accounting standards so that the expenses for those general purpose dollars are actually shown in the general fund, and a transfer in the legal amount that we're allowed to transfer over from the hotel motel tax fund is shown into the general fund. So we've shifted several costs over from the hotel motel tax fund. Those are not new costs, it's just an accounting change on where we're paying for them. Down in other funding, or other financing, one of the big changes is the establishment of a budget reserve account in the amount of $567,500. This is a new idea here at the City of Perry, and it represents really an intentional way that we would like to budget for fund reserves or reserves for unknown expenses. In the past, we would just use fund balance and at the end of the year come to you with a final budget amendment. By this budgeted reserve account, it's us recognizing that there could be future expenses and just going ahead and putting a number there and representing in the budget what that could be. Moving on to the Fire Protection Fund, the only change in revenues is a reduction of $90,700. What that represents is when the original budget was adopted for FY26, it assumed a 10% increase in the Fire Protection Fund. Through negotiations and discussions that we all had with this body during the passing of the fee schedule amendment at the beginning of the fiscal year, that was actually reduced to a 2% increase instead of a 10% increase. So that $90,000 just represents the difference that we won't collect because of that fee increase. On the expense side, we're recognizing the purchase of a fire apparatus. That fire apparatus was approved in a previous fiscal year, but we didn't know exactly when we were going to receive it. I think you're all aware that we did receive it recently, and it's on hand, so we had to pay out the $796,000. And we also owe the first quarterly debt payment on that fire apparatus, which shows the $52,000 increase. In other financing, we're doing two things. Number one, we're recognizing the capital lease for that apparatus that we purchased by increasing the lease revenue by $724,000. We're also increasing a transfer in from the general fund to cover the full costs of the fire department, because that fire fee is not going to cover the full costs of the fire protection. Moving on to the hotel motel fund, the big change here is that we are changing those accounting practices where all of the general purpose dollars are being shown as a transfer out of the hotel motel fund, and those actual expenses are going to be over in the general fund. We're also increasing the transfer of TCT dollars to the Perry Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. By law, they are entitled to 43.75% of all dollars that are collected. So by increasing that by $223,000, we are making sure that they get their full entitled amount. In other financing, all we're showing is that transfer over to the general fund and the hotel motel tax fund. Next fund on the list is the water fund. The water fund, on the revenue side, we are recognizing an increase in our base charge collection. That's just actualization of what we're actually going to collect. The estimate that was completed during the original budget process for FY26 was an underestimate, so we're estimating that we'll collect about $109,000 more. Two items on here are an increase in the water consumption and the sewer usage rate of 3%. That rate increase was called for as part of the rate analysis and CIP process that we went through with Raftellus. What that is meant to do is cover, it'll help partially cover two things. Number one is the increase in debt service that we're going to see from fully bringing on the A.E. Harris Wastewater Reclamation Facility. Also, the operating costs of the A.E. Harris Water Reclamation Facility. On the expenses in the water fund, we've done two things, or we've done multiple things. Number one, we're recognizing the operating expenses for A.E. Harris at an estimated $150,000 for the remainder of the fiscal year, and also the management expenses of A.E. Harris Water Reclamation Facility of $115,000. That represents a partial year of the contract that ESG will charge us to actually man and operate that facility. There is an increase in debt service that we need to recognize. That is for the construction interest on the GFA loans for the two GFA loans for the A.E. Harris plant. In an effort to reduce future expenses and future debt payments in the water fund, we've done three things. To reduce capital expenditures, number one, we've deleted the purchase of a boom truck that was going to be used to help in the maintenance of some of our pump stations. We'll replace that by either renting or borrowing a truck from neighbors. We've also eliminated or defunding the purchase of a backhoe. We believe that just through operational changes, we can still operate without purchasing that backhoe. And finally, we've shifted the purchase of a line truck, of the line locate crews truck out of the water fund into the gas fund. That line locate crew, they locate both water and gas mains, so we decided that it would make a lot of sense for the gas fund to pay for a portion of that, of their capital. Moving down into other financing for the water fund, number one, we're reducing our lease income by reducing those capital expenditures the same amount. We are also increasing the transfer from the to the general fund from the water fund to fully cover all of the PPFA debt service. As part of the original 26 budget, there was approximately $850,000 budgeted for that transfer out to cover their fair share of the PPFA debt. The actual amount that would be a fair share for the water fund to cover is $1.6 million. So by increasing it by $759,000, the water fund will cover their full share of the PPFA debt. The next fund that I've got listed is the gas fund. The only major change that we've done there is shifted the purchase of that truck from the water fund for the Line Low Creek crew that we previously discussed in the water fund. Solid waste fund is next. You all should be aware that we have switched vendors to Ryland for our toter and container collection. That contract is more than our previous provider charged. Total amount on both of those contracts is estimated to be about $418,000. And I'm also recognized the purchase of a work truck. This is the extra truck at the last meeting that you all approved, that I came to you and said that the engine had blown up in, and asked you all to approve that. So that's just recognizing that purchase. Down in the other financing for solid waste, the big difference here is the transfer from the general fund. When you all approved the Ryland contract, we discussed that we would not go up on solid waste funds, on the solid waste rate. We would figure out other ways to pay for that increase in the Ryland contract, at least in the first current year. To do that, we need to transfer approximately $350,000 from the general fund to cover those costs. The next thing we're doing is just recognizing some lease revenue. The big one is $207,000 of that $242,000 is actually for a knuckle boom truck that was purchased in the previous year, but we didn't get the lease revenue till the current year. So that's just kind of an accounting thing. Then the $35,000 increase is for the purchase of that truck that you all approved previously. Finally, in the stormwater fund, it's the last fund that's included in this operating budget. We've defunded the replacement of a stormwater inspection vehicle. While that vehicle does technically meet the 10 years old or 100,000 miles, staff's determined that it's in pretty good shape and can actually keep going for a few more years. Don't know how much longer, but it's in good shape, and just expect that in a future budget we might ask to replace that one, but we've determined that we can keep it going for now. Those are all the notes I have, sir.
Okay. Questions, council?
Some of my questions were answered with your explanations and in the notes, and I appreciate the way that you broke that down for us, Mitchell. That's so helpful. I will have some questions for during the actual council meeting. So when we discuss this, I would like to ask that we can take the time to ask questions about each specific fund instead of in general, so we're not skipping and jumping all over with our questions. So if we could say, the fire fee, if there are any questions, the water fund, if there are any questions, et cetera. I don't know if that's allowable or not, but I think that would probably keep the flow moving a little bit better, and maybe not be as confusing if we're jumping between funds with questions. Okay. If that's amenable to the group.
If you all say to ask it that way, I certainly will after each fund.
Okay. Other questions? Thank you. 10B2 is the first reading of an ordinance amending the city code section 25-31, separate water meters relative to master meters. Mr. Duffy?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, this is another item that we have discussed previously, but basically this amendment reflects the Community Development Department's desire to maintain professional flexibility with folks we work with. This ordinance, section 25-31, was last amended, I believe, in 2021. And at that point, if you look down at letter C in particular, it does state that all commercial developments serving multiple tenants shall have a separate water meter for each unit that can be rented, leased, or sold separately. The amendment is in response to our department's leaning that we should not really be involved in landlord-tenant negotiations on how they choose to split up their utilities for multi-tenant buildings. So the proposed amendment is the addition of the letter D, which requires a written request to our chief billing official to sign off on a different water meter structure for a given building, basically to ensure that whatever is proposed does not compromise service delivery abilities. Staff do recommend approval.
Okay, questions? Thank you. Item 10C are resolutions for consideration and adoption. 10C1 is a resolution accepting ownership and maintenance of rights-of-way and certain infrastructure in the Sugar Creek subdivision, Section 1, Phase 2. Mr. Duffy?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, so this is a roadway, right-of-way, and certain infrastructure acceptance proposal for the Sugar Creek subdivision. This would allow the city to take over maintenance of the roadway, the sewer lines, and fire hydrants related infrastructure. The right-of-way portions are of roads named Sugar Creek Trail, Braden Rex Court, and James David Court. So all have been inspected and meet the city design specifications.
Okay, thank you. Questions, council? Appreciate it. Item 10D is 2026 floating homestead local option sales tax intergovernmental agreement with the county. Mrs. Newby?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, this is an IGA with Houston County, Warner Robins, Centerville, and the City of Perry for the purpose of implementing under Chapter 8 of Title 48 of Georgia Code a floating local option sales tax within the special tax district of Houston County. The proposed rate of the floss would be 1%. The proposed duration of the tax would be 5 years. The IGA provides for, in accordance with state law, the county election superintendent to issue a call for the election of the purpose of submitting the question of the imposition of the tax to the voters of the county. That date would be May 19th of 2026. The election date would be, and if approved in the election, the imposition of the tax would be expected to commence on October 1st of 2026. Under state law and in conjunction with any further limitations provided in this agreement, the parties agree that each recipient of the floss proceeds are required to use them exclusively to provide property tax relief, which means they must annually reduce their rollback millage rate, which is calculated in accordance with state law, by the millage equivalent of the net floss proceeds that it received in the prior taxable year. There's a copy of the proposed distribution schedule that's also attached to the IGA. In that distribution schedule, the proceeds are apportioned and distributed among the parties in a manner to provide for broad property tax relief for the taxpayers of the special taxing district, which is Houston County and the cities, and will not result in a net increase in revenue for any jurisdiction. And so to that end, they would be proportioned to result in the reduction by an equal percentage of each millage rate that was levied by the governing authority of any party on taxable property within the special taxing district. And then there's a chart that's included for you to review there, which shows the proration of the floss revenue.
Questions, council members?
I do have one question, Mayor. If I understood that correctly, Ms. Newby, that with the implementation of the floss, there is a mandatory rollback of the millage rate based upon the proceeds received from the floss. Is that?
Yes, if in fact you approve it. Right. We have already opted into House Bill 581, right, which puts a limit on the amount of money that a homesteaded house or home can go up by right, the CPI that is dictated by the state. Yes. So that part's already in there. But as part of that, the state allowed us to put in a basically local option sales tax. Mm-hmm. And in that, whatever we collect has to roll back property taxes.
Right.
So okay, it's not an increase of property taxes will go down by whatever millage we collect into our general fund from sales tax.
Very good, thank you.
And of course, it's going to be up to the voters if they want to vote in another penny or not. Other questions? Thank you, Ms. Newby. Items 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, 17 are standard. We will have a call for an executive session after our regular session this evening to discuss real estate issues. So, is there any questions relative to this agenda this evening? Thank you. I'll call your attention back to the pre-council agenda. Item 4B is Public Works Department. 4B1 is downtown sidewalks on Jernigan and Carroll Street. Ms. White?
Thank you. If you all have walked downtown recently, you're probably aware that this corner that's highlighted in red at Carroll and Jernigan Street is a little bit different than the rest of downtown. It is all concrete for one, but also the slope of the sidewalk makes a lot of that space unusable. So it was also outlined in our ADA transition plan that was done last year with the fire marshal and Keckenwood as a requirement for federal grant money that portions of Carroll Street didn't meet ADA. So this is part of that total number, this section here, and it's the cross slope. So from the buildings out to the street, in some places is as much as 1.5 feet of difference in grade. So you can kind of see that here, how it slopes off. So it makes it difficult for cars going in that driveway, but also people kind of walking along the sidewalk there. So we contracted with Keckenwood to do like an assessment and then provide ideas of how they would remedy the situation. And so the full construction plans are in your e-scribe for reference, but I did take a clip out of there just to kind of show you that the proposed would tie in the existing sidewalks to this corner. All of it would be in brick, and they would accommodate changing the grade by redoing the existing ramp that goes to the restaurant there on the corner, and then adding a ramp that would go into the building just adjacent that I think now is a church. There'd be some planters that would also be along the road and then at the back end of the ramp in order to accommodate some of the grade changes as well. And this is kind of an idea of what that would look like. Just blocky buildings, but you can kind of see how a lot of that grade, where that ramp goes up on the left-hand side of the picture, is where the current sidewalk is, and it slopes down to the street. So tonight what we're asking for is if council is interested in proceeding with bidding, knowing that the estimate of probable cost is about $130,000.
Mr. Smith, this is a SPLOST project, I take it?
Yes, sir, Mayor. Administration would be very supportive of this project. There are a few things. Ms. White hit on most of them, but the first being ADA accessibility issues. When possible, I think it behooves us as a community to make sure that our public places are inclusive and that disabled folks are able to use those just as able-bodied folks are. The second would be this is in line with the general vision that council has had for downtown with the brick pavers and that sort of thing. She showed y'all a picture there with the busted up concrete and everything. It just doesn't look good for the downtown district. And then also too, just generally supporting private businesses and people that are making investments in the downtown. We have traditionally come in when people make investments in downtown and follow up with public investments to kind of support their ongoing operations. So a very worthwhile project. I was actually shocked when I saw the cost estimate come back in. Very reasonable. I know you're all aware of the SPLOST funds that we have available to us. For this particular project, I think it's a perfect SPLOST project. the city currently has $2.4 million in what they call the roads, streets, bridges, and sidewalk projects kind of bucket for the 2024 SPLOST. And I think this would be an ideal candidate to be paid for out of the SPLOST.
Okay. Questions, council members?
I do
Yes,
have
sir.
one question. So how will this impact these businesses as far as closures during the construction? Because I'm just thinking about Scoopology just opened. It's amazing, by the way. But that's really the main entrance into their business. I think there is a side door that maybe, but it's still part of it, looks like, that plan. So how would this impact businesses having to be closed during construction? What's the timeline of that, you know, if the weather behaves, et cetera?
That would just have to be something that's outlined in the bid specs of what we're looking for, and then work with the contractor to figure out how they can make that work. I would imagine they could prioritize access and make sure that, you know, some of that's kept open, and then, you know, maybe on a Sunday and Monday they can do a lot of that work right there. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. You had a question?
Yes, sir. Ms. White, do you know how long this would take?
No, sir.
Okay.
Council members, is this something that you would like to entertain and move forward to the agenda for a vote?
I would. I think anything we can do to enhance the ADA compliance of our downtown area is, like Mr. Smith said, is very important.
And especially in that area.
Especially in that area. You know, we've already done a lot of work in our playgrounds, and we've done work in other parts of the city, but anything we can do to make sure that we are completely accessible is important.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Smith, would we move this to tonight's agenda, or is this go to next agenda, next meeting?
No, sir, you can move it to the regular council meeting agenda.
Okay.
And
Councilmember-
basically, Ms. White mentioned asking for your approval to move forward with bidding the
With
project.
the bidding, and the bidding will come back here.
Yes,
so-
sir, it would.
Okay.
I do have one more little question.
Yeah.
Sorry. How will this impact parking spaces? This will not take away any existing parking spaces, correct?
That's
okay, thank you.
Good, good. Council members, do we have concurrence to move it to the regular agenda? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. White. 4C1, Communications Department. This is the proposed recognition categories and criteria policy. Ms. Howell?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As presented at your last meeting, you are being asked for your concurrence on this policy for evaluating recognition request. And as a reminder, the intent here is not to limit recognition, but to simply clarify expectations. So happy to answer any questions.
What questions do you have, council? I think the question is, we want to move this to our regular session for a vote. Okay?
We discussed it before.
Yeah, we did, but we said we would bring it this way. Okay? Do I have concurrence to move it to the regular? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I could just, along that vein with recognitions and stuff, we had discussed at some point discussing a criteria by which banners for events could be put up across Carroll. So that's not for tonight, but for a future discussion, maybe at our next workshop or thing that there's still questions about that, and that would be an easy thing to clear up. So
Very good. We'll add that to the work session.
very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 5 is our council member items. Dr. Faust? Okay. Mr. Jones? Dr. Albritton?
I have 2 items. One for Mr. Coates. A couple Saturdays ago, I attended the 11, 12, or 13-year-old boys basketball game at Perry Middle. The Lakers versus the Celtics. Just wanted to pass along that the event was well attended, nicely organized, and but the main thing I want to say is how the coaches dealt with the kids, and whatever you're doing in training them, please continue. It was a nice event, and it was kid friendly. No downward talking to the kids, so I appreciated that. And for Ms. White, I received a phone call today about 2 or 3 o'clock from a widow lady. who walks regularly at Barbara Calhoun Park, and she witnessed a domestic argument between a man and a woman and was kind of afraid, and she went toward the three gentlemen that were doing some work, landscaping work at Barbara Calhoun Park, and she was afraid to go past the car to get on to Tucker to go to Frank Satterfield, and so the three gentlemen walked her to Tucker Road past the car, and she wanted to pass that along, so she was very complimentary of those three men. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Dr. Albritton. Mr. Moody?
No, sir.
Mr. Peterson? Mr. King? Okay. Mr. Smith, do you have anything for us?
No, sir.
Ms. Newby, do you have anything for us this evening? Okay. Like I said, we do have an executive session after our regular session this evening, but we do not have time to cover those items before our regular session. Is there anything else that needs to come before us this evening before we stand adjourned? Hearing none at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn our pre-council meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Please let the record show we adjourned our pre-council at 5:46, and we're adjourned till 6 o'clock. Good evening, everyone. It is 6 o'clock, and at this time I will call the regular council meeting of the Perry City Council for Tuesday, January the 20th, 2026 to order. We do have a quorum this evening. Item 3 on our agenda is the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Mr. Moody will lead us in the invocation. Reverend King will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you are able, would you please stand at this time?
Let's bow our heads. Heavenly Father, as we conduct the business of this great city, we ask for your guidance and wisdom and pray that our actions glorify you. Thank you for our mayor, council members, department heads, and all of our employees. We thank you for our first responders and ask that you keep them safe. We ask for your continued blessings on all of us who call Perry home. In Jesus' holy name, amen.
Thank you, council members. Item 4 on our agenda are citizens with input that's relative to agenda items except public hearing, and you'll be given an opportunity in that public hearing to express your views. Is there any citizens that would like to address mayor and council at this time? Thank you. Item 5 is recognitions and presentations. Item 5A will be the recognition of Fire Recruits of the Year. You have a number of awards there for different firefighters, so would you come forward and introduce them, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, it's with great pleasure we're able to introduce to you tonight our Fire Recruit, our Firefighter, and our Fire Officer of the Year. We recently awarded these gentlemen their awards at our annual awards banquet, and Chief Crumpton did such a great job that night introducing them, so I'm going to have him come up and read their citations or the information about them, and then we'll introduce them one at a time to you.
Thank you, Chief, Mayor, and Council. I'm not sure about this public speaking and how well of a job I did, but I'm going to do my best. We are honored tonight to recognize these individuals. Our first award will be our Fire Recruit of the Year. Alfredo, if you want to come on up. Just for clarity, a recruit is any member who's been on our department for less than 2 years. And we ask when the nominations are submitted that they give us a little input. It's not like they just submit a name. We want to know why they stand out. And we always feel like it's fitting that we take some of those quotes from their nomination form and include it. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of insight of what was said about him. So this firefighter has worked diligently and continues to challenge himself to seek improvement, showing initiative in both formal and day-to-day operations. His performance on the scene, in the station, and in the community reflects a level of professionalism far beyond his tenure. I thought that one was really great. His work ethic, positive demeanor, and commitment to excellence exemplify the qualities of an outstanding recruit firefighter. He has a magnetic personality and is a great piece to our puzzle. He is always the first one up every morning to take out the trash and put away all the dishes, and all of it done with a hug and a smile. These statements speak for themselves, and we couldn't agree more. So Firefighter Alfredo Rodriguez, congratulations on your award. All right, next up is our Firefighter of the Year. And to be eligible for Firefighter of the Year, a nominee must be within the ranks of Firefighter through Fire Sergeant. And this year our winner is Firefighter Timothy Jones. Welcome, glad you made it. He got tied up in traffic in Macon. We were nervous he wasn't going to make it, but you pulled it out. Good job. Here's some of the notable statements made about him. He is one of the most dedicated men that I've ever met. He sets extremely hard goals for himself and always achieves them. He is one of the most humble individuals that I know, and no matter the circumstance, always has a smile on his face, like he does now, even in front of all these people. His positivity and attitude toward his life and career are contagious. He is consistently involved in numerous community events, whether it be in the city of Perry or leading the youth at his church. When asked, he's always up to the task and is continually willing to come in and help with extra shifts, special events, and public education. Additionally, this past year, he took it upon himself to complete the physically demanding 24-hour Spartan program, where not only did he complete it, but now helps with the instruction in that course. He continues to do well for himself and for our department, and we are happy to congratulate him with this award. All right, last, our final award is for our Fire Officer of the Year. And to be considered for this award, the nominee must be within the ranks of Fire Lieutenant to Battalion Chief. And this year's winner is Lieutenant Brian Banks. Come up, Lieutenant. And here's some of the statements made about him by his peers. He always puts his department first and looks out for his fellow firefighters and ensures they have everything they need in both their work and personal lives. He is one of the most genuine and dependable individuals you will ever meet and sets the standard of professionalism each day. He exemplifies the qualities of a true fire service leader: integrity, humility, and commitment to his fellow crew. Beyond his professional excellence, he actively serves at his local church food bank, consistently providing for those in need. He leads with strength and heart, making him an exceptional role model and true asset to the Perry Fire Department. By a near unanimous nomination, Lieutenant, congratulations on your award.
Congratulations to each of you, and thank you for what you do each and every day to protect the citizens as well as the city of Perry. Item 5B is a water and sewer infrastructure update. Mr. Murphy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm humbled to be here tonight, and I hope that this will be as informational as it possibly can. We've got about 23 slides to work through, so hopefully we won't be too long. What I'd like to do is start off by telling the story going back to 2019 of where the city stood as far as water and sewer infrastructure, not only for its existing customers, but pledged development as well as the thought of future development. So the map that you have before you shows capacity challenges that the city knew of dating back to 2019. Strapped across the city in all basins, the city had some major challenges. So as a part of our service, GWS service to the city of Perry, we were asked to take a look at a holistic approach as far as what is required when it comes to water and sewer infrastructure, not only for existing customers, but future customers as well. So we started planning. That started with a what we called the East Perry Sewer Feasibility Study. When we looked at the challenges associated with capacity across the city in all basins, there was an obvious path to be able to alleviate capacity concerns to the east. And so as a part of that feasibility study, we identified and recommended that the city look at a master plan to plan for not only future infrastructure, I want to make that very clear, but alleviating capacity concerns with your existing infrastructure as it sits in 2019. So we started off with the feasibility study that led to the East and South Sewer Master Plan. So with this map, what we're looking at is the south and the east service areas. This is comprised of thousands of acres, the majority of which are undeveloped. Now, there are some challenges associated with this. Wetlands, streams, areas that are dedicated to state and federal conservation. So as part of the master plan, we looked at a holistic approach of, with the existing sewer and in these basins, what may be necessary to alleviate the capacity concerns and plan for the future. In our east service area, what you are seeing with this map are subbasins, and what that can relate to are areas that feed to a low area, which may be a stream or a creek that sewer would follow to a endpoint, if you will. And the endpoint, as you can see in this map, where the blue line and green line intersect, is the A.E. Harris Industrial Park. That is located just to the east of Purdue Farms, off of 247 Spur. So all of the sewer from the east service area can flow down Mossy Creek and Big Indian Creek to one point at the industrial park. From the south service area is Flat Creek north to the intersect of Big Indian Creek to the east. So again, this is looking at the city service area in the south that can flow along Flat Creek to its intersect with Big Indian and ultimately connect to the east service area. So this was developed as part of the master plan, showing subbasins, and again, I want to make sure that everyone understands this is not just for future development. This is also existing development that has capacity concerns in the south. So the part of the master plan is to, again, alleviate capacity concerns with existing infrastructure and plan for future. So it's a twofold approach in due diligence to utilize the best of city resources and planning over the next 30 years. So we talk about existing infrastructure and the concerns that the city has with capacity, and then how do we alleviate that? Going back to the first map that was shown, the red and the yellow infrastructure, the red was existing capacity, existing infrastructure. The yellow was extensions to serve planned development along critical routes that have already been pledged to sewer capacity. So that was millions of dollars literally, without really adding anything for future development. You would have had to have upgraded all of that infrastructure, pumps, pipes, your wastewater treatment plant at Frake Satterfield. It would have all had to have been done. So as part of the master plan, we took the approach, how can we alleviate that capacity, make the most out of it, and then plan for future development if the city decides that it needs future development. That was part of the master plan. So we looked at Highway 41 South Pump Station, force main, and gravity sewer. All of that infrastructure was deemed undersized. It needed to be upgraded. As part of the sewer master plan, it was recommended that the city decommission 41 South Pump Station, have a gravity sewer feed over closer to Flat Creek at Golden Isles Parkway, and then pump that flow up to MLK Junior Boulevard. In doing so, you open up additional service area in the south. You also alleviate capacity concerns in your 41 South Pump Station, force main, and gravity sewer, and that is along State Route 41. It also goes through residential subdivisions, so that you would have been dealing with property owners in their backyards. Very intrusive to upgrade, possible, but again, you're only accounting for what it was currently handling, not planning for the future. Parkway Pump Station and Force Main. This is over behind the Houston County Detention Center on Perry Parkway. So the pump station and the force main that conveys flow to the Frank Satterfield gravity system has reached its capacity. The force main needed to be upgraded. The pump station needed to be upgraded. Again, it is only handling what you currently have. It can plan for a little bit more of development in the Northeast, but not all. And so as part of that, we looked at decommissioning that pump station, having a gravity line come down to Ivy Glen Pump Station, and then have a new force main that would feed to the east to a new wastewater treatment facility. That accommodates capacity, concerns now, and plans for future development and growth if the city decides that's the position they want. The other is your Frank Satterfield water pollution control plant. So in 2019, there were already concerns with capacity at the plant. Here we are 6 years later. If the East Perry wastewater treatment plant, now referred to as A.E. Harris Water Reclamation Facility over in the industrial park, was not being built, you would have to have a major upgrade to that wastewater treatment facility. There are site limitations. That site is surrounded by wetlands, existing structures, and you have to keep it in operation while you're constructing new. And there's only a limit to how much it can actually get to. And you're not addressing future development, potentially in the south and the east, with additional infrastructure. So having a strategy there to maximize the value and alleviate capacity concerns now, planning for the future. As a part of this, the GWS is leading with infrastructure for the east and the south to alleviate capacity concerns as well as plan for the future. In the south, we have the South Gravity Sewer Outfall, which will start at the Highway 41 South Pump Station and gravity feed under 75 over close to Elko Road, just south of Golden Isle Parkway, and then have a pump station and force main that will convey that flow up to MLK Junior Boulevard. In the east, we have the Ivy Glen Pump Station upgrade. That's an existing pump station. We're upsizing the wet well and the pumps to be able to send more flow. That pump station will receive flow from the decommissioned Perry Parkway pump station and pump that through a conveyance system over to the East Regional Pump Station that is at the intersection of Mossy Creek and Saddle Creek Road. From there, have a force main that will pump it into the industrial park. This map shows the infrastructure projects related to water and sewer that GWS is handling for the city. These may be actual design and construction projects and maybe planning projects, but it is in all basins. The city is not just incurring interest in development in the east and the south. It is also in the northwest around Jack Links. It is also in the north along Highway 41 and into the northeast off Highway 127. So there is a lot of interest for growth in the city of Perry right now, and we're tackling providing recommendations and solutions to the city to be able to maximize their resources and do due diligence to its constituents. So these are highlights on individual projects. So we talked about Frank Satterfield Water Pollution Control Plant. If A. Harris Water Reclamation Facility, which is the new wastewater treatment plant in the industrial park, was not moving forward, this project would be necessary. It is not necessary at this time. It is on the shelf in the event that future growth in the northwest, in the west, and in central Perry develops beyond what it has now. But once the new wastewater treatment plant is operational, approximately 1 million gallons per day of sewer flow that is currently at Frank Satterfield will be diverted to the east. In doing so, that capacity will open up more potential growth within other parts of the city. So a strategic plan there to maximize Frank Satterfield once the new facility is online. A.E. Harris Water Reclamation Facility. This is the city's new wastewater treatment plant in the industrial park. It is currently nearing end of construction. We have a substantial completion date in March of this year with a final completion date in June of this year. You can see through this picture this construction that is ongoing. This is probably 3 months old as of today if you were to ride out. The gravel roads around all these structures have been installed. It's starting to come together. I'm not going to go through each individual part of the plant, but we are tracking it by process structure as far as completion, and that is nearing an end. At the completion of this project, the plant capacity will be 2.5 million gallons per day. So when transferred, the 1 million gallons that's coming to Frank Satterfield, a remaining capacity of 1.5 million gallons per day will be available to the city. Before we move on, I do want to make sure council understands that regardless a city project or anywhere else in the state of Georgia to permit, design, and build a wastewater treatment plant is a 5-year process. So this process was actually started in 2021 at the completion of the sewer master plan. So extreme forethought by the city leadership, mayor, and council provided a path forward for development to continue, as well as to address capacity concerns that were existing and alleviate millions of dollars in expenses just to get you whole on what's already in the ground. East Perry Regional Pump Station. This site, again, is located at the corner or the intersection of Mossy Creek and Saddle Creek Road. This is currently under construction by the same contractor that is building the wastewater treatment facility, and this has a completion date in May of this year. Parkway to Ivy Glen Gravity Sewer. So again, we talked about taking Parkway Pump Station offline and allowing that flow to be conveyed to the Ivy Glen Pump Station. That pump station is currently being upgraded, and the gravity sewer being installed, and the force main also conveying that flow to the East Regional Pump Station. This project has 2 contractors. One, Coggins Construction. They are building the gravity sewer from Parkway Pump Station to Ivy Glen Pump Station, and JDS, which is a general contractor, and they are responsible for upgrading the pump station and installing the force main to the East Regional Pump Station. They will have 3 crews on site installing roughly around 27,000 feet of pipe, as well as a crew at the pump station. This is a major project. Ivy Glen Pump Station upgrade. We just talked about this, and I believe that contract with JDS, the guaranteed maximum price, was approved recently by council. We talked about Saddle Creek Force Main, so this will be coming from Ivy Glen Pump Station. You can see this line in the red. This is the 27,000 feet. It will parallel Highway 341 to Saddle Creek Road and go to 247 Spur, and then south 247 Spur to A. Harris Road, and connect to a force main that goes into the A. Harris Water Reclamation Facility. South Perry Sewer status. We have 3 phases. We talked about this previously, the gravity sewer that will be going from Highway 41 South Pump Station to a new South Regional Pump Station. Both Phase 1 and Phase 2 are at 90% plans approved, so we're getting to the finish line on design and permitting with that project. Phase 3, which is the South Regional Force Main, this will take flow from the pump station to MLK Junior Boulevard. And those plans should be at 90% in February. So the South Perry project, if council proceeds with bidding and construction, should be under construction in the late second quarter of this year, to be finished either by the end of the year or in the first quarter of next year. We talked about other needs throughout the city, existing capacity issues. So Limley Pump Station, if you're familiar with Langston Road at Highway 41, basically at that intersection just to the south of the Dollar General is the Limley Pump Station. That pump station has reached its capacity with growth along Langston Road and to the north along Highway 41. The city has asked GWS to evaluate how do we extend capacity and be able to accommodate development if it arises and not waste resources in doing so. We have come up with a 3-phased approach. Phase 1 will be upgrades at the pump station itself. This may be an in-house project for ESG operations that is yet to be determined, but roughly upgrading the pumps to from 180 gallons per minute to 400 gallons per minute. That's quite a bit of additional capacity for about $42,000 in parts. That is an estimate. That is not a hard bid. And then Phase 2, there are several force mains along Langston Road coming from Langston Place and Sugar Creek subdivisions. The plan would be to intercept the 2 force mains with a new force main and allow that to be conveyed over to infrastructure that the city stalled about 3 years ago on Thompson Road. There's a sewer extension, a 10-inch pipe that is there at the intersection of 41 and Thompson, and dumping in right there. That will allow Limley Pump Station, as far as its capacity, to extend well beyond into the future. Phase 3 is way down the road, but there is an option to be able to gravity feed and take Limley Pump Station offline. Anytime the city can eliminate a pump station, you're saving operation cost, power cost, and so that is an option that can be decided at some point in the future, but at this time it is not necessary. Bear Branch Pump Station and Force Main. So if you're familiar with Bear Branch Road off of Houston Lake Road, just south of Highway 127, there are several residential developments in the area that feed to Bear Branch Pump Station. It has had capacity issues since 2019. The force main is also undersized, Currently, we are under construction on 2 separate projects. One is to rehab the pump station and accommodate future growth. The other is to upsize the force main. And so this was highly needed in the event that continued development in that northeast part of the city happens, and the Mossy Creek outfall, which is a part of the East Service Area master plan, is not developed at that time. So this is an intermediate solution to accommodate growth to some unknown point in the future that the city decides to build the Mossy Creek sewer outfall for remaining development in its eastern service area. These should be completed this year. The pump station will be completed in August, and the force main in May. Both are under construction. Big Indian at I-75 sewer capacity upgrade. So under I-75 on the south side of Big Indian Creek, the city had an existing 12-inch pipe that was conveying all flow from the entire west service area. That includes the south and the north. So we talked about Highway 41 South Pump Station, force main, and gravity all being undersized. Well, this was the next part of that. Through this project, this pipe was upgraded to a 21-inch pipe to accommodate growth in the west until the south outfall is online and flow is redirected from the Highway 41 South Pump Station. This will open up potential for development in the northwest, in the industrial park around Jack Links, and other nodes that are currently on hold because there is no sewer capacity. This project is complete. This is just a summary of all projects either bid or under construction currently as far as sewer infrastructure. In finishing telling the story, since 2019, and the projects that are either currently underway or have been completed, the city had to set budgets. They had to fund these projects up front to be able to move forward with the projects. We have tracked all of these, and we help the city set the budgets for each project, and then the bid amounts. These bid amounts were contractors that came in and competitively bid on the projects. I believe on this list, all but one project that is listed came not only under the budget, but under the bid amount. Take back two projects. But as the city plans and budgets and then receives bids, GWS is still working on the city's half with contractors to be able to save every possible dime that can be through value engineering and coordination with contractors and the city staff. To date, still 3 projects have not been complete, but almost $900,000 in savings over the last 6 years in projects that needed to be complete that came in under the city's budget. A lot of information. What questions can I answer or try to?
Yes, sir. This is an incredible project, and it's interesting to see just the whole evolution and the rollout of this. Could you go back to the last slide, please?
Yes, sir.
So I wanted to understand the all of these projects, except for the ones that state construction is underway, those are completed.
Yes, sir.
And I guess I want to know, are they all? Is the cost of these already been put into bonds? In other words, they already paid for. So, is that correct?
I would have to defer to Mitchell Worthington.
He's nodding his head over there. Yeah.
Not necessarily just bonds.
Well, whatever.
I'd have to go through each one, but there were multiple funding sources for all of these. Remember, we had ARPA funding that came in 2021. in the future. There was also some SPLOST, I would assume, involved in these, but I'm not prepared to talk about each one
Yeah,
where the funding
I'm
came.
more concerned in which ones are paid for. Are the ones that are under construction, are they paid for as well? They just haven't been completed? Or do we still have
The
to pay for
funding
those?
has been secured for them, yes, sir.
Okay. Is that through PPFA bonds or?
I'd have to go through the list individually
Okay,
and look
that's
those
okay.
up, but yes.
But the main thing is they're all funded. They're all been previously funded.
Okay. If I may ask one more question here, then does this complete the master plan, or are there yet other projects out there in the future that we have to be thinking about?
As far as anything that is unforeseen, this completes infrastructure necessary for the east to be developed and the south. There is still one phase of the master plan I referred to, the Mossy Creek sewer outfall, would be a gravity sewer system that would feed along Mossy Creek down to the East Regional Pump Station. That seems to be quite a ways down the road.
Okay. And if I understand, Saddle Creek, that plant, even though its capacity could be increased, we are limited by regulations that limit outflow from that, what we can put into the river there. Is that
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The facility was constructed for 2.5 million gallons per day.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
If I may.
Yeah, just a correction on that, Robert, if you'll address that.
Oh, I wasn't going to address that, Mayor. Relative to the permitting for Frank Satterfield, is that what you?
No, it's permitting for the east, A.E. Harris, because we really got permitting for far more than 2.5.
Yes, sir. It can be expanded up to 24 million gallons per day.
Yeah, I just
if
want that
necessary.
understood, that, no, we're not limited. We didn't go build a plant that limited us to 2.5 million. We actually have permitting approval up to 25 million, so it can be expanded as industrial customers come on to the A.E. Harris track.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Yeah, and my question only related to Satterfield.
Yeah, and it's very limited, I would think.
Yes.
Because of the outflow on it.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, Robert.
So thank you. Kudos to Burke and his team for putting this together. I think it's good to, bring this up with you all just as a reminder about what's going on with the city and of course the public. Mr. Peterson asked a couple of very good questions there. I would refer you all to the CIP that was recently completed. I think that provides a pretty good outline relative to which projects are being planned for, which projects are slated to be completed in the next 5 years, and how those projects are scheduled to be paid for. So I think you could refer to that for a lot of your questions you may have.
Other questions?
And sorry, I know the CIP as it was provided to you all is a bit unwieldy. We're hoping to get a better kind of printable, easy to reference guide that we can get to you instead of this big ridiculous spreadsheet. So you could expect that sometime soon as well.
Thank you, Mr. Murph. I know how much work has gone into this. I don't know how many endless hours I have looked at sewer plans since 19, but you guys have done an outstanding job of getting us prepared for the future and really saving us money. And I really appreciate your effort.
It's our privilege, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 5C, or special events application. 5C1 is the 2026 Second Saturday Showcase and Artisan Pop-Up Series, second Saturday of each month beginning March the 14th, 2026. It'll be from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Ms. Hartley?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, this is a request for a second Saturday showcase. Artisan Pop-Up Market is a part of the Perry Farmers Market, essentially an expanded artisan showcase on second Saturdays. Of course, depending on what other events are taking place downtown, and making sure that we're working together with our other community partners and special events departments that might be hosting events. But we did this in October through December of 2025. It was very well received. It performed very well for those vendors that attended, as well as our community members that attended the farmers market, and it benefited by bringing more foot traffic to downtown on those Saturdays. So we'd just like to request to move forward with this pop-up series for 2026 to continue to bring good things downtown.
Questions, council members? Hearing none at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the second Saturday showcase as outlined by Ms. Hartley. Second. Motion and second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right or left arm.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Please let the record show that the second Saturday was approved unanimously. Thank you, council. 5C2 is Mint Talent Agency contract for Rumors ATL, performers for the Perry Bites and Beats Festival on Saturday, September the 12th, 2026.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to request approval to execute the Mint Talent Agency contract to book Rumors ATL, a Fleetwood Mac tribute band, as the headline performer for the Perry Bites and Beats Festival on September 12th, 2026. The band is tentatively scheduled to perform a 60-minute set between 7 and 8 p.m. on the main stage. This event was intentionally curated to encourage multi-hour attendance, activate downtown businesses, and attract visitors from outside of our local area. The contract that is included in your packet does include a $15,000 artist guarantee, paid in 2 installments, with the deposit being due as soon as the contract is executed, along with standard touring accommodations, which are the $1,200 hotel buyout, ground transportation, and a $25 per person meal buyout, bringing the total approximately $16,350. In the contract, you'll notice blue redlined items in the contract as well as the rider. And these changes were reviewed and approved by both the city attorney and the talent agency. They just stay visible due to the agency's policy for transparency and record keeping. The booking was selected strategically because Rumors ATL has a proven ability to drive regional visitation and tourism, and this contract represents intentional investment in downtown activation and the long-term growth of Perry's event portfolio.
Okay. Questions, council? Yes, ma'am.
As I mentioned, it's me in this microphone. As I mentioned in pre-council, I would like to see some intentional advertising specific to all of our local hotels, since we are trying to attract people from farther out than just our local community. I think the use of the hotel motel tax fund would necessitate that as far as due diligence there. And I do have major concerns about the amount and not having a backup plan because of weather. I'm on the, I love that band and I want to see them. Like, really, I think it's a really great idea. But the side of me that just knows how many events we've had to cancel because of weather and inclement weather, even if we do have a stage that would protect them, but to have to cancel because of lightning, for example, for public safety reasons, is a major point of my concern. So.
And that's an understandable concern, but with event planning, you kind of have to take those risks. You can't negate the need for a good headliner. I mean, the city of Warner Robins, they have their 4th of July festival every year, and they have these big, giant headliners that they're paying significantly more than what we're paying this performer here. And it gets rain, and we've had events where we've held it in the rain, and we still get thousands of people. And so I don't agree with letting that hold you back from booking this performer. Because realistically, the reason that we cancel most times is because we don't have a covered stage. And their instruments and the performers won't take the stage in the rain.
Okay, your explanation makes me feel a lot better about it, so thank you. You've got the expertise in that area that I don't have, so
yes.
I appreciate that extra information.
Yes, sir.
You could invite everyone to bring an umbrella just in case.
Of course.
And thunder only happens when it's raining anyway, so there you go.
Exactly.
I was going to sing that, but I beg your forgiveness, but when you were explaining how this gets paid for, I missed some of that because I was looking for a piece of paper. Could you just explain it again, please?
We will be offsetting the deposit cost, which is $7,500, with current funds that we have in our sponsorship account. And those are funds that we've garnered from building partnerships with different businesses in the area. And there's roughly $2,800 sitting in that account. And then I will let Mitchell, I'll defer to Mitchell for the remainder of that.
Sure. So the hotel motel tax is broken out into 3 categories. You have your general purpose, which you're allowed to spend that general purpose on anything that a city is legally allowed to spend money on. You have your TCT dollars, which are all the dollars that go over to the Perry area CVB for their operations and have to be used on certain things as well. And then you have your TPT dollars, which are tourism product development. I believe Dr. Faust in the pre-meeting, we talked about hotel motel dollars not being allowed to actually pay for the events themselves. That is true for TPD and TCT categories of hotel motel tax. However, the general purpose dollars are allowed to be spent on anything that a city is illegally allowed to spend money on. And as you'll see, I think we went over it a little bit earlier in the budget amendment that's before you for a little bit later. We are changing the accounting for that just a little bit. The dollars, the expense will show in the general fund. However, there's a transfer over from the hotel motel fund to the general fund to cover those expenses.
Thank you. Okay. Other questions? At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the contract as outlined by Ms. Cameron. Motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand or left. Please let the record show the request for the contract was approved unanimously. Thank you. We look forward to that.
Thank you.
Item 6 are appointments. 6A are mayor and council joint appointments. We'll go through each one of these. 6A1 is the Perry-Houston County Airport Authority, and this is the 2 appointments that we as a city have on that authority. We would recommend the reappointment of Billy Gerald and reappointment of Dr. Marshall Parker to represent the city of Perry. At this time, I'll entertain a motion, or is there any questions relative to their appointments? Hearing none, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve those appointments, reappointments. Motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Please let the record show that the Airport Authority was approved. Item 6A2 is the Main Street Advisory Board. Ms. Hartley?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and council staff is recommending reappointment of 2 currently serving board members for the Main Street Advisory Board, Ms. Trish Cossart and Mr. Rob Ray. Ms. Cossart is a business owner in downtown Perry, and Mr. Ray is the associate pastor at the Perry Methodist Church. Both of these individuals continue to exemplify Standard 2 of state and national Main Street accreditation, which is inclusive leadership and organizational capacity.
Questions, council member, about these recommended appointments or reappointments, excuse me. Hearing none at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the reappointments as outlined on the Main Street Advisory Board by Ms. Hartley. Motion and second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Please let the record show that the Main Street Advisory Board was approved unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6A3 is the Technology and Entrepreneurship Advisory Board. Ms. Wharton?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and council, this evening for your consideration is 2 recommended reappointments to the Technology Board. The first is Dr. Lenine Rodriguez. He's the Director of Operations for the UGA Grand Farm and really fills the expertise that we need to support agriculture, innovation, and technology here in the city. The second is Antoinette Kennedy. She is a Senior Manager for a division of Verizon. She works remotely and is also very involved in entrepreneurship support. So both very valued members of our board, and we do recommend reappointing those.
Questions, council members, about the recommended reappointments? Okay, hearing none at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the two reappointments as outlined by Ms. Wharton.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Please let the record show that the Technology Board was approved unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Wharton.
Thank you.
Item 6A4 is the Downtown Development Authority. Ms. Wharton?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. For the Downtown Development Authority, we have a recommendation for 3 reappointments of existing board members and 1 appointment. So to cover the reappointments, that is Ryan Mosley, Marlon Rhodes, and Tom Tuggle. All 3 of those gentlemen are very good members of the Downtown Development Authority, all bring good ideas and expertise to our board. So each of them have expressed their interest in continuing to serve, and we do recommend reappointing those. And then to talk about the appointment recommendation, we are putting forth Lindsay Bryant for recommendation on this agenda. This would be serving a former board member's term that was not interested in reappointment at this time, so this would be a new board member for us. Ms. Bryant is the development manager for the Loudermilk Companies here in the city of Perry. Based on her expertise and the requirements outlined in state law and our interview process, we do recommend appointing Lindsay to this board tonight. Happy to take any questions.
Questions, council? Hearing none at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the appointment and reappointments as outlined by Ms. Wharton on the Downtown Development Authority.
Second.
Second. Motion and second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Please let the record show that the appointment and reappointments were approved unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Wharton.
Thank you, Mayor.
Item 5 is the Industrial Building Authority. Ms. Wharton.
Yes, for my final request this evening, I have for your consideration the reappointment of Ms. Maggie Schuyler to the Industrial Building Authority. This authority, as outlined in their enabling legislation, allows for 1 member of that to be appointed from the Perry Area Convention Visitors, the Perry Area Chamber of Commerce. So whoever is serving in that role as the president and CEO there would be on this authority. So this is a recommended reappointment of that 1-year term for the Industrial Building Authority.
Questions, council members? Hearing none at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve Mrs. Wharton's recommendation of the reappointment of Ms. Schuyler to that board.
So moved.
Motion and second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Please let the record show that the appointment was approved unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Wharton.
Thank you, Mayor.
Item 6A6 is the Historic Preservation Commission. Mr. Duffy.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. Yes, so this recommendation from staff is the reappointment of Mr. Andrew Griffin as well as Mr. Clayton Hubbard to our Historic Preservation Commission. They have both been commissioners since the commission's formation back in 2022. They're very passionate about the architectural history as well as cultural history of Perry, and have had consistent attendance and have expressed a desire to continue serving on the Planning Commission. Excuse me, the Historic Preservation Commission.
Okay. Questions, council members? Hearing none at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the reappointments as outlined by Mr. Duffy to the Historic Preservation Commission.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Please let the record show that the recommendations were approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Duffy.
Thank you.
Just for clarification for those that are here, these appointments, many of them run with the elected official's term. And so the reason we're bringing so many of them forward is we just had an election. So many of their terms ended on 12/31 of 2025. And so we either have to have new appointments or reappointments to each one of our boards. And so that's why we're going through each one of our boards and authorities this evening. 6B is the Mayor Council Post 1, District 1, District 2, and District 3 appointments. Item 6B1 is the Perry Public Facilities Authority. Ms. Newby?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, staff recommends the reappointment of Mr. Jeff Leonard, Mr. Benjamin Holbert, Mr. Madison Holland, and Ms. Belinda Baker to the Perry Public Facilities Authority.
Okay. Questions, council members? Hearing none at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the appointments, reappointments to the Perry Public Facilities Authority. Motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Please let the record show that the reappointments were approved unanimously. 6B2 is the Perry Planning Commissioner, Mr. Duffy.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Yes, so staff are recommending 3 reappointments to the Perry Planning Commission. Each have had consistent attendance for their time served and bring a different area of expertise to the Perry Planning Commission. Mr. Jim Meserly is our chairman, who is also a licensed architect. Mr. Hayes is a professional within the local finance industry, and Mr. Wharton is an attorney. And as you mentioned, the commissioners' term lengths do run concurrently with the office of our nominating council person.
Questions, council? Yes, sir.
And I just bring this up more for a point of future maybe discussion, and that is the consideration of is it prudent to have spouses of employees serving on boards, and just for future discussion on that. In Mr. Wharton's case, I've interviewed him myself for positions, and he is highly qualified, and I've heard nothing but good stuff about him, and so I'm fully in support of him. Okay. But I just bring that up for future discussion, maybe in a work session or somewhere down the line there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Perry Planning Commission reappointments as outlined by Mr. Duffy.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Please let the record show that reappointments were approved unanimously. Item 6B3 is the Board of Adjustments and Appeal. Mr. Duffy.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is for our Board of Adjustment and Appeals reappointment process. So the Board of Adjustment and Appeals does not meet frequently. I believe the last meeting was in 2022, possibly 2021. But the board is comprised of members per our charter with experience in the construction trade fields. In the event someone feels a need to challenge a decision of our chief building official, this board will be called as needed to review that situation. So appointees recommended for reappointment include Dylan Wingate, local developer, Mr. William Jackson, a local business person, Mr. Clay Smith, a local contractor, and Mr. Jim Meserly, local architect. Thank you.
Questions, council members?
I would just point out with Mr. Jackson, I believe he's retired at this point, although he is a former businessman and council member, and he's really highly qualified for this. So, but just for your information there.
Good. Okay. Other questions or comments? Hearing none at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Board of Adjustments and Appeals as outlined by Mr. Duffy.
So moved.
All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Please let the record show the reappointments were approved unanimously. Item 6B4 is the Perry Area Convention and Visitors Bureau Authority. Ms. Turpin.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for letting me come before you tonight to share our recommendations for the appointments for 2026 for our board. First and foremostly, we do have 2 appointments to request, and the first one would be for Ms. Talisa Azaro, who is the owner of Chow Bella Market in historic downtown Perry, and also for the appointment of Ms. Heather DeLoach, who is the owner of Paint with Lush Art Studio, also in historic downtown Perry. We also have 4 reappointments to request. Mr. Chris Patel, who owns the Super 8 here in Perry, Andrew Presswood and William McWilliams, both of who are active residents of the city of Perry, and Miss Megan Brent, who owns the Perfect Pear Catering in historic downtown Perry. I welcome any questions that you have about any of these recommendations.
Questions, council members? Hearing none at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the appointments and reappointments as outlined by Mrs. Turpin. Motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Please let the record show that the CVB appointments were approved unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 7 is a review of the minutes. 7A, council members, you've been provided with the minutes from our January the 5th, 2026 work session, our January the 6th, 2026 pre-council, and our January the 6th, 2026 regular meeting. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes as presented. Motion and a second. Is there any addition, deletion, or changes you'd like to make to those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as written, please indicate by raising your right hand. Please let the record show the minutes were approved unanimously. Item 8 is unfinished business. 8A is ordinances for the second reading and adoption. 8A1 is a second reading of a text amendment to the land management ordinance to add language to section 6-10.2, general requirements for streets and rights of way. Mr. Duffy?
Thank you again, Mayor. So as we discussed during pre-council, this is a text amendment to our code section in the land management ordinance of Article 6, Development and Design Standards. The amendment adds language to allow for secondary fire access and public safety access in circumstances in which the Georgia Department of Transportation will not permit additional curb cuts on surrounding subdivisions. So this is a public safety recommendation to enable such access. Planning Commission did recommend approval.
Questions, council members? Thank you. Is there anyone here this evening that would like to address mayor and council relative to this ordinance? Council members, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance as outlined by Mr. Duffy.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same. Please let the record show that the ordinance was approved unanimously. Item 9 is any other unfinished business. 9A is unfinished business from the mayor. I have none. 9B are unfinished business from our council members, Dr. Faust, Mr. Jones, Dr. Albritton, Mr. Moody,
No,
Mr.
sir.
Peterson, Reverend King. Okay. Is there any unfinished business from our city attorney, Ms. Newby?
No, sir.
Is there any unfinished business from our city manager, Mr. Smith?
No, sir.
Thank you. Item 10 is new business. 10A are matters that referred from the January 26, 2026 pre-council meeting. We have 2 items to address this evening, council members. Item 10A, 1 is the downtown sidewalks on Jernigan and Carroll Street. Ms. White?
Yes, sir. As was outlined in pre-council, we are asking for your concurrence to move forward with bidding out the regrading and paving of the corner of the Jernigan Street and Carroll Street intersection directly opposite Orleans on Carroll to address ADA issues as well as the downtown aesthetic. And the probable cost is about $130,000.
Be funded out of SPLOST, as
Yes,
I
sir.
understand. Council members, any questions relative to this recommended SPLOST project? Hearing none at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the downtown sidewalks program as outlined by Ms. White.
So moved.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Please let the record show that the sidewalk project was approved unanimously. 10A2 is a proposed recognition categories and criteria policy. Ms. Howell?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. As discussed in the pre-council meeting, you are being asked for your concurrence on this policy for evaluating recognition requests. And again, the intent here is not to limit recognition, just to simply clarify those expectations.
Okay. Questions, council members? Hearing none at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the proposed recognition categories as outlined by Ms. Howell. Motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Please let the record show that the proposed recognition was approved unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Howell. Item 10B are ordinances for the first reading and introduction. 10B1 is the first reading of an ordinance to amend the FY 2026 operating budget. Mr. Worthington? And my understanding that was the request that questions would be asked by different funds.
That's correct. I did go over some high points for each fund in the pre-council meeting. Unless you all want me to, I don't plan on doing that again. As requested in the pre-council meeting, I will go over the total adjustments by type for each fund and then open it up for questions as asked by Dr. Faust. Just to recap, the mid-year budget amendment is a normal process we go through each year. It's a time halfway through the year for us to reflect back and actually look at what our actual revenues are thus far and expenses are, and adjust our budget to reflect those actual expenditures and revenues. For the general fund, our total revenue adjustment is a positive $1.7 million approximately. Our total expenditures adjustment is a positive $653,000, and our other financing is a positive $156,200. With that, I can open up the general fund. Any questions you may have? If I don't know the answer, I promise I can get it to you tomorrow.
So I would like to talk about the assistant city attorney position that's being requested. Is this the appropriate time to do that? Okay, sorry, thank you for helping me. So I asked this morning for some information about how much we spend on legal fees outside of our city attorney salary and our paralegal salary. And the answer to that was $265,416. So when added together with the attorney's salaries and benefits, et cetera, that is over $500,000 that we are currently spending on legal representation, $502,893 to be specific. I noticed also in the budget request for last year that this was not approved and put on hold, but we were asking for the assistant attorney position, I believe it was, to be $79,000, whereas this year the request is for $150,000. So I don't know if that is a different position possibly, or what
it was
the
not.
difference is.
When that was requested, basically going into it, we knew that wasn't going to be a funded position. So there was a placeholder number put in there,
Okay.
And it was when we first started doing the research on what an assistant city attorney would be. And it was, after looking at the market, that amount would not hire an assistant city attorney.
That makes sense. Thank you. So I just got kind of curious, as I often do, and I started thinking, well, we compare ourselves to a lot of different cities. And so I called the city of Canton today and talked to someone in their city management about that, and I said, well, how much, what attorneys do you have on staff, et cetera? Just for the record, they have about 37,000 people as compared to our, 26,000-ish, right? So they're a little bit larger than us, and outside of Metro Atlanta. But they actually do not have a city attorney on staff, and nor do they have a paralegal. They budget out all of their legal representation through a law firm that's contracted out hourly, et cetera. And so I said, well, wow, how much do you spend? And the answer was approximately $60,000 to $80,000 per year is the average that they're spending on contracted services for legal representation. And so actually they said, we're actually looking right now at possibly hiring a paralegal, which I found interesting considering. Also, Warner Robins, which has 86,000 people, they have one attorney and one paralegal on staff. Macon Bibb has none, Pooler has none, Thomasville has none, Cartersville has none. So thinking through that and thinking about our expenditures and where we stand and our our needs, of course, just having that kind of context and perspective was important to me, because I do believe that, you know, as we are looking at our practices and thinking about what best practices are with staff, et cetera, and how our staff members are used, I think it's just important to kind of to think through all of that. So that would be my comments.
All right. Moving on, the next fund that we have in our operating budget is the Fire Protection Fund. In the Fire Protection Fund, we're proposing a reduction in revenues of $90,700, an increase in expenses of $776,300, and also a net increase in our other financing of $817,300. I'd open that to any questions.
Questions, council members, roll to that. As I understand it, we are moving money from the general fund to the fire fund because it is unfunded, underfunded.
That is correct. The fire fee is not projected to bring in enough revenue to fully cover the cost of our fire protection services. So the general fund will have to subsidize that fund.
So how much is it?
We're increasing it by $332,500. However, the total
maximum 780.
708.
708. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
So what is it underfunded again? How much?
$708,000. And that's,
Yeah.
I guess that's property tax that's paying the difference.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah. If I may ask a question then, what is it that I mean, it seems like every time we've done a fee increase, it's never enough to get us there. We keep trying to. What is the main either hindrance that keeps us from getting there, or is there something that just keeps forcing that number up?
Well, each year there are increases in expenses in the fire protection fund. You know, the main increase in fire protection is, or the main expense in our fire protection fund is going to be our firefighters, their salaries and benefits. As we all know, those have to go up each year to keep up with inflation. You know, we budget around 2% increase each year for salary increases, and then the last several years we've had health insurance increases go up dramatically. So that's the main driver of the expense. The fire protection fee essentially has never, it was introduced at a smaller amount. It's never fully covered the cost of fire protection, so it's just a long-term plan to hopefully get it there to do that.
Don't you have debt service this year that you don't?
We also have debt service. That's true this year. You guys have all graciously recently approved the purchase of 3 new apparatus. Those are not cheap. The cheapest one was $800,000. The other 2 are, one of them is pushing $2 million and about $850,000 for the other one. We are covering debt service on those vehicles through the Fire Protection Fund. Yeah, that's really the main driver of what the general fund is transferring over to the Fire Protection Fund this year, coverage of debt service.
Okay. Next fund.
If I may, Mayor, following up on Councilmember Peterson's comment relative to, I guess the kind of back and forth with personnel costs, we are very cognizant of personnel costs across all of the funds.
Yeah.
We have a number of mechanisms in place, such as career tracking, in-classification adjustments, tuition reimbursement program, those sorts of things that have been very successful. However, we are looking at options relative to possibly limiting the use of those programs and making sure that we're not experiencing drastic increases in personnel costs year after year. So we are very aware of that and looking at options.
Questions, comments? Okay.
All right. Next fund is the Hotel Motel Tax Fund. The total expense adjustment on this fund is a negative $211,600. And then in other financing, it's actually an increase of $367,900. Welcome any questions you have on the Hotel Motel Tax Fund.
Okay. Questions? Thank you.
All right. Water Fund. Total revenues that we're projecting is an increase of $785,800. The total expenses we're projecting is an increase of $416,500. And then in other financing, we're actually increasing transfers out and reducing lease income for a total of $1,067,100.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, first question here is, just in the midst of, obviously, you're promoting a 3% increase in water consumption and sewer usage rate. Are there any other increases across the board in here that, you know, like any other base fees, or we're not increasing fire fee, obviously?
No, sir. This
We're not
budget does
increasing
not call it
stormwater
increase
or
anything
anything
else.
like that,
No,
right?
sir.
These are the only two. Okay.
It does incorporate the sewer connection fee that's already been approved.
Correct.
So, yes, sir.
Correct.
But
I guess what I want to ask is kind of like the question with the fire fund. We've got ratepayers, and this would be apart from the connection fee, but the ratepayers who are paying the money into that, and then we're paying the bills out of that. And it seems like there's really two large categories of obligation we have to pay. We have to pay for the operations of water, sewer all over Perry. But then we also have to pay for the debt we've incurred for all those great projects, needed projects, the new sewer plant, things like that. If you just took a snapshot of that, and I'm thinking, especially in light of for the past, I guess, 3 years, we've had a 7% increase each year, plus a few other increases. What is kind of the balance of that? What is the difference in that? I mean, are we really spending, when we add up those two things, the operations and the debt service, are we really spending more than we're taking in?
Per this budget, we're essentially breaking even. I believe we're calling for an increase in cash of around $32,000. However, in a $14 million budget, I would think $42,000 is pretty much statistically zero. You know, we could be over that or under that by a little bit. So yes, I would say that we are spending all the money that we're bringing in.
That's on a cash basis. You're not covering your depreciation, as I
That's
understand
correct.
it. Because in reading that, it says we're $1.7 million in the red.
That's correct. And depreciation for the water fund is projected to be $1.8 million. So a vast majority of your loss on the books is through depreciation. So you're not able to replace, you're not building up a reserve to replace capital in the future.
But as I understand it, the requirement or the suggestion on depreciation in the budget is $1.8 million, which we are not funding.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I appreciate you sharing the dollar cost, because that's really what I wanted to know. And I recognize the dangers of maybe not putting the depreciation fund, setting that aside, but be that as it may. So do you have a figure as to what the operations cost on an annual basis versus the amount of debt that we have to pay? Because adding those two, that would be the big expenditures.
Sure. I mean, I don't have it in my head and right in front of me, but I can absolutely get that to you tomorrow.
Because I was just kind of trying to play around with that, and with just the Harris debt alone, that was $3.7 million a year that we have to pay that back, and then we've got 6 different bonds that I figured add up to almost $1 million a year in beyond that. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I'd like to maybe show that to you, because that's really what I think would help me to understand this better is what is that cost to provide this service for our community, and then what is, I guess our revenues are somewhere in the $12 million range or something. I was looking at the FY26 budget book that's, I guess, about to come out, and that's where I tried to get that. So that would be some clarity.
Sure. The original FY26 budget called for charges for services to be approximately $12.4 million. The revised budget that's before you tonight would raise that to $13.2 million.
Okay. Let me ask a question on the chart here. You're really wanting to get $129,000 from ratepayers. Would that be right? Add those two numbers together, 56,000.
Yes, sir.
And 73.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'd really like to see if we couldn't look and see if we can't find somewhere 129,000 to not have to reburden. It's not just this fee; it's other fees and stuff, and it'd be a point of discussion. I think, Steve, we haven't had our retreat yet, but that would be, I think, something worth. What are the limits we can tax our ratepayers on? And I was encouraged to find out that all the projects that we saw tonight from Mr. Murph, that those are paid for. I didn't know that. I was glad to hear that. But then there's other CIP things that are coming up.
Sure. So the short answer in the current year is if that 3% raise is not going to place would be the water fund. I told you as of right now on a cash basis, they're estimating about a $30,000 increase. Without bringing in the $129,000, that would obviously go down. We'd lose money on a cash basis. So we would probably, what I would recommend would be that the transfer out from the water fund to the general fund to cover PPFA debt would be reduced to whatever it needs to be to break even. And the general fund at that point would be subsidizing your water fund for their debt service.
But aren't you doing that on two other funds right now?
We are.
So you're burning cash is what you're doing out of your general fund, which that is not sustainable.
Yeah, that'd be a very short-term and unsustainable path.
Well, hopefully we'll have some more discussions on that. But I appreciate your work.
If you have a solution, we would take it.
Well, I don't have one here tonight.
I don't know how you keep spending your property tax money by subsidizing services that you provide.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about taking $1 million out of your general fund, out of your property taxes.
I understand.
And we were fortunate this year to have fortunate, or if you're a business owner, property owner, you may say unfortunate to have our commercial buildings doubled in value. So we had a windfall this year, but I don't think that's going to occur with House Bill 581 in the future. And I have reservations about what's going to come out of the General Assembly about what we can charge long-term on property tax. So we need to be careful about moving property tax to pay for services that are delivered.
Well, I would agree.
Following up on that, we have discussed, I believe, numerous times with this body now, possible ways that the city will be able to diversify revenues and also allocate costs, if you will, in a different way than they're currently allocated in the water fund. You can see some of the notes in the documentation that was provided to you this evening. We're already working on that. We've shifted a number of costs out of the water fund to try and better the water fund. There are a number of charges and things like that that Mr. Worthington and I have already taken a look at that we plan on incorporating, bringing those out of the budget for FY27. There are numerous avenues through which we believe we'll be able to further diversify revenues in a way that will benefit the current ratepayers. You all, we've talked about this, you all have a heck of an asset in the new A.E. Harris Water Reclamation Facility. And the way things are going, and there's already some things in the works that we're going to be bringing to you very soon, we as a city are going to be able to leverage that asset and hopefully mitigate future rate increases to a certain extent to our current ratepayers. And again, just kind of as best possible, diversify revenues that are coming in to the water fund so that we're not having to constantly go back to the ratepayers. So very cognizant of these concerns, absolutely. And I believe there's a fair amount of headway that we can make with that.
Well, and I appreciate the work and the study. I know it's not easy, and it's just an interesting puzzle to figure out. So thank you for entertaining that, and I'm sure we'll talk more later.
Yes, I too hope we will talk more about it later, Councilman Peterson. But I was just wondering, to the mayor's point about property tax, it's my understanding, since we didn't roll back the millage rate this year, we did get I guess, a surplus. Is that correct, Mr. Smith?
That's correct.
Okay, so could we use some of that potentially to mitigate rate increases this year?
We certainly can, and that's what Mr. Worthington was alluding to when he mentioned the transfers. However, long term, that is not a sustainable strategy, nor is it equitable, because you're essentially allocating a consumption cost to a structure through which you're not correctly allocating the costs associated with the water service provision. If you are looking at property tax and you're utilizing those revenues, which are assessed based on value of property, obviously across the board, versus something where you're paying based on what you use, there's a loss of equity associated with that, so you wouldn't want to continue along those lines.
You're also going to have to look at going up on your millage rate, because I don't think you'll have the luxury of a windfall like we had this year. And so that's what you're doing. You're taking your millage rate right now, and you're basically taking 1 mil that you're collecting off of your 12.687, and you're using that to supplement the cost of services that you're providing to the city. You can't keep doing that. Like I said, that just burns your cash up.
We maybe can't do it in perpetuity, but could we not do it this year since we have a surplus? Would be my question.
Do whatever the council wants to do.
Well, and it would buy us a little bit of time, I think, along the lines possibly of how you're thinking, to get to some of those solutions where maybe we can turn into some revenue producing that would offset rate increases in the future, hopefully. I don't know, just something kind of to think about. And when will we look at the fee rate schedule adjustment? I probably didn't say that correctly. Like, what's the timeline on that? I'm just, again, sorry, new kid.
Sure. With Mr. Worthington's ordinance, he is accounting for a 3% increase in both the water and sewer consumption. However, codifying that for you all would require a fee schedule amendment. So that would come at some point in the near future, assuming you all move forward with the amendment as outlined.
But in general, we look at it once a year at the beginning of each budget year. So when you pass the budget in June for July start date, that's when we look at the fee schedule.
Okay, thank you for that.
There are times if we might come mid-year to adjust it sometimes, but we take a holistic view of the fee schedule every June leading into the next fiscal year.
Next fund?
Sure. I believe next is our natural gas fund. Yes. Natural gas, there were no adjustments to revenues or other financing. There is an increase in expenditures of $74,200.
Okay. Question, council? Okay.
Sure. Solid Waste Fund. Solid Waste Fund has a total increase in the expenses of $453,900. Total increase on your other financing of $646,000.
Questions?
So I was wondering what that increase in the toter contract and the container collection contract came from. Sure. And I think I found it in the November 18th meeting notes with the amendment to the agreement for solid waste collection service with Ryland. In item B on that, it says contractor will take over cart delivery, cart removal, and cart repair work orders for the city. The contractor will bill this summarized on the monthly solid waste bill collection bill. So my question for that item specifically is, where's our cost savings by Ryland doing that? Like, did that reduce somewhere else in our budget?
No, that wasn't part of the agreement. We knew it was going to be more expensive than our previous contractor, but we were replacing a contractor who was not performing with a contractor we thought would perform.
Right. So in the previously, though, taking over cart delivery, cart removal, cart repair work orders, wasn't that previously handled by our city employees?
I'd defer to Ansley on that.
That's correct. And so this was a planning effort put in front of council in November, but it may be implemented in February. We're working towards getting both parties on board. So we have the transfer station that is being utilized by the solid waste division. Our trucks are now, instead of having to drive to the landfill, able to directly dump there at that site. And that is becoming a full-time position. So it would allow us to, instead of having to hire for a position to man the transfer station and move the debris, be able to transfer that position that's doing the toter deliveries out to that site full-time.
So we're pretty much just swapping a job description.
Yes.
So it would be budget neutral for us because we're paying Ryland, but we're not having to. Is that correct? Is that the right way to think about that?
And with the growth we're seeing, it's hard for our one person to keep up with all of the toter deliveries, repairs, replacements, and so it's becoming more than he can handle.
Okay, thank you for that explanation.
you're
I
welcome.
appreciate you.
If I may, I think possibly clarify the situation a little bit. The increases that you see in here are primarily attributable to a conscious decision that was made by administration at the time when this budget was being put together, to not increase the rates associated with solid waste service for the ratepayers. And it was my kind of understanding at the time that was essentially a trade-off that was provided to our customers because rates were increasing in other areas that, again, the administration felt that hitting them all at the same time with all of these increases was not maybe the best thing to do. And that it was there, again, a conscious decision was made that in the budget for this year, the general fund was going to subsidize the solid waste fund. So that's primarily what you're looking at right there. So the rates were never going to generate the revenues necessary to operate the service.
It just seems like a recurring pattern here where our expenses are not covered by what we're bringing in. So what I think I've heard tonight is it's not best practice to use property tax dollars to subsidize the water piece, but yet we're using the general fund to subsidize solid waste and gas. Is that correct? Or not gas? Water.
I don't think they're good practices, period, for all three of them. Has nothing to do with just water, so.
Yeah, I appreciate the effort to not raise the solid waste, right? I truly do. Personally, I have 2 trash cans I pay for, so I totally get that. But I don't know. I think we need more conversation around how we're addressing these as we move into before we get to our second reading of this budget.
Yeah, that's why it's 2 weeks, when you have two.
Right. Yeah, I feel like we need some dedicated time to have conversation around it.
Okay. Other questions? Your next fund.
Finally, Stormwater Fund, the only change here is that we are defunding the purchase of a new stormwater inspection vehicle, and along with that, reducing the lease revenue that would have paid for that vehicle.
Okay. Do you have any other funds?
No, sir.
No, sir. Okay. Questions, council members? Thank you, Mr. Worthing. Appreciate that.
Thank you all.
There is no action required by council tonight. This is the first reading of this ordinance. 10B2 is the first reading of an ordinance amending the city code section 25-31, separate water meters relative to master meters. Mr. Duffy?
Thank you, Mayor. So as we discussed in pre-council, this code amendment is serving to establish a process for consideration of different configurations of water meters to different types of buildings. The existing ordinance is very specific in requiring separate water meters for individual tenants, particularly with commercial developments, whether they be rented, leased, or independently sold. The goal of this ordinance is to establish a form of flexibility with our building partners rather than mandate the configuration of service delivery for new or existing buildings. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, council members? This is the first reading of this, so no action is required. Thank you, Mr. Duffy. Item 10C is resolutions for consideration and adoption. 10C1 is a resolution accepting ownership and maintenance of right-of-ways and certain infrastructure in the Sugar Creek subdivision, Section 1, Phase 2. Mr. Duffy?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, so as is outlined, this is in acceptance within the Sugar Creek subdivision, Section 1, Phase 2, specifically concerning right-of-way portions of Sugar Creek Trail, Braden Rex Court, James David Court, each of which have been inspected and meet the city standards for water, sanitary sewer, stormwater infrastructure, and asphalt dimensions. So staff are recommending approval of acceptance.
Questions, council members? Hearing none at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution as outlined by Mr. Duffy. Motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Please let the record show the resolution was approved unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Duffy. 10D is a 2026 floating homestead local option tax. It's an intergovernmental agreement between the 3 cities and the county. Ms. Newby?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, Mayor, this is an intergovernmental agreement which would be between Houston County and the 3 cities of Perry, Warner Robins, and Centerville for the purpose of implementing the provisions of Chapter 8 of Title 48 of state law to impose a floating local option sales tax within the special taxing district of Houston County. The proposed rate of the floss would be 1%. The proposed duration would be for 5 years. The IGA would call for the county election superintendent to issue the call for an election for the purpose of submitting this question about the tax to the voters of the county. That election would be held on May 19th of 26. And if approved, the imposition of the tax is expected to commence on October 1st of 26. As required by state law, each recipient of the floss proceeds would be required to use the proceeds exclusively to provide for property tax relief. Each party must annually reduce its rollback millage rate, which is calculated in accordance with state law by the millage equivalent of the net floss proceeds that it received in the prior taxable year. There's included as an attached schedule, the distribution schedule to the proposed IGA. In that distribution schedule, the floss proceeds are apportioned and distributed among the parties in a manner so as to provide for broad property tax relief for the taxpayers of the special taxing district of Houston County and not result in a net increase in revenue for any jurisdiction. To that end, the proceeds are apportioned to result in the reduction by an equal percentage of each millage rate that was levied by the governing authority of any party on taxable property within the special taxing district. And then there's also a proration chart that's included.
Questions, council?
Yes, sir. So this floating local option sales tax, basically you could look at it this way. Sales taxes that we take in from not only residents of Perry and Houston County, but everyone who comes into Perry to purchase something. They will help, even people that don't live in Houston County will help us homeowners, property owners in Perry reduce our taxes.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Thank
you. And the distinct difference between FLOST and SPLOST is you can only use SPLOST dollars for capital projects, whereas the FLOS can be used for general fund. So there's a distinct difference in how you can use those, and so we'll have a direct reduction in property tax offset by the sales tax that we collect, like you said, from people who come in on the interstate to buy gas or stop at Walmart. We need to thank them for helping lower our property tax. So, questions? At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement as outlined by Ms. Newby.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Please let the record show that the local option sales tax intergovernmental agreement was approved unanimously. Item 11 on our agenda is general public items. Is there anyone here this evening that would like to address mayor and council at this time? Yes, sir. If you would come forward and give us your name and address.
My name is Jim Lay. I live at 807 Washington Street, and I have prepared a brief paragraph or two. At the last meeting, there was a vote, I believe, to stop taking reservations at Heritage Park until further study of park usage could be made and presented at the February 5th meeting. After the last city council meeting, there was quite a bit of social media posting on this subject, pro and con, mostly why are we locking down this park when the taxpayers pay for it? That's really got nothing to do with what I'm talking about here, but there was also a couple of posts that said, why don't we have a dog park out there? We had a dog park at the old Visit Perry Center out by the fairgrounds, closed that down. I don't believe, and I'm not sure, but I don't believe there's another dog park. And when I say a dog park, I mean that's a place, we have a lot of places where you can take your dog, including Heritage Park, and keep it on a leash. But it's my understanding, not being a dog owner, so I don't have a dog in the hunt, excuse the pun, that at a dog park you can take your dog off the leash and let it run around and beat up other dogs or whatever, and poop at random and whatever. But Heritage Park doesn't have that, and I think there's a huge amount of property there, especially, I've driven out there a couple of times over the last few days, and you pull in straight, and then you go down to the entertainment center, but off to the left, there's a gate, and there's this huge area, and I think that would be a great opportunity to have a dog park and a pooper scooper and whatever else you need in a dog park. So, that's something for consideration if there is going to be further discussion on this before the February 5th meeting or subsequent meetings. Another thing that I just happened to notice at the time, there's a sign at the entrance of that park that has the rules on it. It's totally unreadable from a car. You actually would have to stop your car at the entrance, which means you're almost just barely off of Sam Nunn, and get out and read that sign. I think that there's an opportunity there. There's another sign like it down in the entertainment center. But by that point, you've gone into the park, and you may not even go down to that area. So I think there's an opportunity there to improve that signage, move it. It's in an area, it's off 15, 20 feet or more off the road. It's only about as big as the top of this desk, maybe a little bit bigger. The print's really small. I think there's an opportunity there if you're going to make improvements to Heritage Park to improve that signage. And something that's the end of what I had prepared to talk about tonight, but something hit me as we're talking about budgets and hotel, motel taxes. And I'm just kind of curious. The new Fairfield and town, whatever you call it, hotel out on the fairgrounds being state property. Do we get the hotel motel tax off of that, or is that not included in our, because it's state property?
We'll have to get that answer for you.
Just curious. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, if you would come forward and give us your name and address, please.
My name is Brenda Ryberg. I live at 1105 Kingston Road in Perry. And I wasn't planning on speaking tonight at all. I was just gathering information, making notes. But then when they were talking about the 3% increase in the water bill, it just struck me as, okay, the way we're talking, there seems to be an issue with prices going up and stuff like that. And what can we do as the city of Perry to either reduce or keep the prices low? So I'm thinking that there is a problem in the water department programming. Example, I got my November bill. I'm a one-person household. One person. okay? I got my November water bill. It was $166. About had to call our EMS because I almost had a heart attack. My water bill's never been that high. It's been high, but never that high. So I said, let me call the city of Perry and find out what's going on. So they said, well, you used 268 gallons. I said, there's no way I used 268 gallons in October. I'm a single person, and I was on vacation for 14 days. So she says, let me check. So she goes into her, she says, well, we showed that you used water on October 11th to October 12th. You used 268 gallons. I said, no way. She said, what do you mean? I said, I wasn't at my house. I was out of town. I can prove it. I got pictures. I got receipts. Gas station. I was in Pennsylvania. I said, I've got great neighbors, so don't even go there, that my neighbors hooked up the water hose and filled up their whatever tanks, okay? I got great neighbors. Been there for over 10 years. The neighbor also has security camera on their house that kind of looks at the front of my house where my water spigot is. They can pull it up. Nobody pulled into my driveway. Where did that 268 gallons of water go to? Nobody was there. There was no leaks. I had no puddles. I didn't have damaged floors. I didn't have any caved-in roofs where water was leaking or stuff like that. And I'm like, well, we have the one-time forgiveness bill for, I said, I don't have a water leak. There is no leak. There was nobody here. How can my water meter say 268 gallons of water was used in this house when nobody was here? Well, we'll go ahead and reduce your bill and get it taken care of. And I said, that's great. But I said, what if it happens again? And she says, well, she couldn't give me an answer. So my question is how did the meter read 268 gallons from my house to use my house when there was nobody there? Nobody was using the water. So is this an ongoing problem with either charging people for what they're not using or not charging people for what they're using? Is that why there's such a problem with the water bills and stuff like that? Is it a programming error? Is it water meters or what?
We can't answer that tonight.
That's what I'm saying, but
we'll
maybe
look into it.
That's maybe one of the reasons why our water usage bills are all over the board.
Give us the chance to look into it, and we'll get back to it.
They took care of it, but I wasn't going to say anything. But if we keep having increases, it's like they can't even get the right amount of water for one house. How are they getting the right amount of water for businesses and everybody else's house in the city of Perry?
Thank you for your comments. Appreciate it. Anyone else like to address mayor and council at this time? Thank you. Item 12 are council member items. Dr. Faust?
I do have two things. Just as a point of, I'd like for us to explore, right? So nothing necessarily an item for tonight, but something to kind of plant a seed and kind of get us thinking a little bit. As we've gone through the reappointments and appointments process with our boards and commissions, I've been interested in that process because it's new to me, right? And I've been looking again at other places and kind of seeing how they do things, and interestingly enough, how we do. And I would like to see us form some sort of committee to kind of look into that process. I'd like to increase the transparency for selections of who gets an interview versus who doesn't get an interview that applies, of how we advertise when we actually have openings, instead of just having a general statement out there saying, if you ever want to do anything, let us know, right? Which is kind of where we are right now. I also would like to look at some term limits on some of these committees to see. I think it's wonderful that we have so many community members that are willing to donate their time and effort and expertise. But I also think that sometimes best practice is that we do have term limits, or maybe have people take a break between terms, et cetera. And also to have people required to reapply every time, because we need to post that we've got an opportunity for people to serve. You know, when it's an automatic, oh, they're going to be just reappointed every time, then people don't step up necessarily. And we've got some really amazing people in our community doing really amazing work out there in our community that could really help bring a new voice and some new vision in. So, and then also, as we are putting in our minutes and such for the reappointments, I'd also like it noted how many years of service each person being reappointed has actually served. And that was done in a couple of the committees, but not all of them. And then overall, I just feel like we've got some really big work to do in our city on policies. That's near and dear to my heart. It's kind of where I hang my hat with my actual profession. But specific to boards and commissions, I'd really like us to take a close look into conflicts of interest, both personally and professionally. I think the comment was given, do we let the foxes guard the hen house? And sometimes that is how it appears in the community, when really we're looking at very specific skill sets and criteria for these boards that we look at. We had several people appointed tonight that, looking across the applications that were given, they had the expertise, and they're the ones that need to have a seat at the table to help us, you know, with the work of those specific committees. So, so that being said, the other thing that's been brought to me several times recently, and before actually I was in this seat, is concerns about retaliatory practices, or the perception of retaliatory practices, I should say, when people have concerns about maybe how that things are handled or that they were treated. So I would really like, again, for us to have some conversation around how do people such as builders in our community, architects, engineers, people who are requesting building permits, if they have an issue with the way that maybe that process is being handled, what is their recourse to share those concerns? I know you have an open door policy, and people feel free to call you all the time because your phone is constantly ringing, right? But as mine has been, like, well, that was my phone right then. But, and also with you, Robert, y'all have a wonderful rapport and open door policy there. But I do know that in the community, I've had 6 different people who have been going through the permitting process in the last year who have brought to me concerns. And they said, I said, well, why haven't you told anyone? And they're like, we're afraid of the retaliation. And there is a long-standing history of that here, whether it just be urban legend or not. So I do think that if we could look at some sort of external whistleblower policy or something that would give people an anonymous way to report their concerns, I think it would be good for our builders, our architects, our engineers, the people that are coming and developing out our city in ways that really we want them to do, right? I mean, that's a partnership. They have a vested interest here, and we do too. Most of the people I've spoken with are our small business builders. They're our local community members that are doing big things here, not necessarily these big, huge companies that deal with us all the time, but people who really do have a personal vested interest in our town. And I think it's so important that we not only respect them and the effort that they're putting forth, but that we show them that we are treating them correctly, and we want to remove any doubt of that, because that doesn't look good on any of us. And if it's not the case, then that would show through this policy. So that's something I'd like for us to explore. I mean, that's, again, not for tonight, but as we're moving into our planning retreat, there are some things like that I really think we need to, specific to policies and procedures, that we really need to nail down, because we're too big to not have that anymore. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jones? Dr. Albritton? Mr. Moody?
No, sir.
Mr. Peterson? Mr. King? Okay. Robert, do you have anything for us?
No, sir.
Ms. Newby? Anything for us? Okay. Item 13 are department heads. Ms. Wharton?
Yes, Mayor. I do have one additional item for council's consideration. This afternoon, I was visited by a representative from FedEx related to our drop box that we have located at the corner of Jernigan and Carroll Streets. I was advised that that box is out of ADA compliance, and they're looking to relocate it or remove it. So the representative recommended moving it to near the door of the Carroll Street entrance of City Hall. I don't necessarily think that that's the best location for it, but it works for what they need for ADA compliance. Also recommended one across the street on the sidewalk that I don't think would work well for our operations. In talking with Ansley and city manager, I do think that if there's a way to work with FedEx to replace it in the parking lot side of City Hall, similar to the UPS box, that would probably be preferred on everyone's, from everyone's perspective. And I even spoke with Ansley about the potential to, if we need to work with Public Works to create a little concrete pad to make it compliant, they would be willing to do that as well. We would like to retain this box because it's very much utilized by our businesses downtown. So just wanted to share that with you this evening and see if you had any preference for locating it near the Carroll Street entrance of the building, or attempting to work with them to find an appropriate location on the parking lot side of City Hall.
You guys want to think about that? Do you need an immediate answer?
They requested one, but of course the answer can be provided at your discretion.
I have a comment, Mayor.
Yes.
I think on the parking lot side, similar to where the UPS collection box is, I think that's acceptable to me, and I think it would meet the ADA requirements also.
Okay. Everybody agreeable with that?
Well,
Yes.
as you was talking, or they sent information, they said, well, they would like to see it, or there's something that we have to make a decision where to put it. Because if they're convenient for them, I think we need to comply so we can put it where they need it to be put at. So, they could in and out like they're supposed to, pick up, you know what I mean? Do we, like you just asked the question, do we have to make that decision? If the best is that if they have criteria or information from the company that when we do put up a box, what's the best place to locate that box?
Sure. Yes, Mr. King. I do think that it's up to the council in this case because it would be located on city property. Whether it's on a sidewalk or a City Hall property, and so we can direct them as we wish, and if they are not interested in what we suggest, they will remove the box.
Okay. I think everybody recommended that we put it next to the UPS or in that UPS area, so if everybody's okay with that, we'll make that recommendation.
Okay.
Is that okay? Okay.
Okay.
Very
I'll
good.
get
Thank
back
you.
and provide council with an update when I have one.
Mr. Wharton? Okay. Mr. Duffy? Mr. Coates?
Yes, Mayor and Council. I do have one update, and this comes from our local disc golf community. And it reads, over the past 52 weeks, which is 2025, 1,400 rounds played at Rosa Park. 950 of those disc golf rounds were played by local players within the 10-mile radius of the course. Players from 23 states stopped by to actually participate in some of the disc golf tournaments that were held at Rosa Park. And even though I'm a guy that's in shape, it was actually 4.5 million steps taken at Rosa Park, and that is a lot of exercise, even for me. So they want to extend a warm thank you to Mayor and Council for allowing the disc golf community to use Rosa Park as one of its destinations.
Thank you. Chief?
Yeah, Mayor, just one quick thing, just a situational awareness of the weather that we may have this coming weekend. Likely going to have some freezing rain and freezing temperatures Saturday going into Sunday, and it could extend on into Monday as well. So we'll have more updates as we go through the week, but just be aware that we could have some significant weather this coming weekend.
Can you come rescue us in Atlanta? Thank you for that update. I think, GMA has their Cities United Summit planned for up there, but I think they're going to have to reconsider some of their activities given the severity of it up in the Atlanta market. Chief Everidge? Ms. White? Ms. Birdshaw? Okay. Ms. Warren, is there anything from the city clerk's office? Okay, thank you. Item 14 are mayor items. I again remind everyone that our meetings are open to the public and we do encourage your interest and participation. Thank you for staying with us tonight to almost 8 o'clock. So our next meeting will be on February the 2nd with our work session here in this chamber at 5 o'clock. On the 3rd, we'll have our pre-council and council meetings as normally scheduled. So again, we look forward to seeing you then. We do have a need for an executive session for real estate. At this time, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session. Motion and second. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. We are in executive session.